Let's get sweaty.
Hey guys, welcome to another Shenmue Dojo video. Today's video I'm going to be looking at SEGA and whether I think they are potentially making excuses around picking up the Shenmue series again, and looking at the sort of reasons to potentially why that might be the case, and why I think actually they could possibly put those aside if the market and other things allow for this to happen. First off, before I sort of dive into the nitty-gritty content of this, I want to give a shout out to Sun in the staff chat, who prompted this video with a link that he put into the staff chat a few days ago, prompted this idea, hence the video is now here for all you guys to enjoy. So thank you, Sun, for giving me the idea to sort of push this forward. And that leads us straight into the rationale and the reason for this video. And this is going way, way back, nigh on 6 months now. And I do not know how any of us missed this, quite frankly, but we all missed this. So on June the 19th, 2023, there was a shareholders meeting at SEGA. It's quite common. A lot of these companies do these sorts of things as part of the financials, etc. So this is quite common practice. But this had a very interesting twist to it. Now, I'm going to bring it up on the screen for you right now. So during the Q&A of this particular shareholders meeting, someone asked outright, could you tell me if there is a possibility that SEGA will be involved in the next installment of the Shenmue series? Fair question. The answer was quite straight to the point, in fairness to SEGA. He said, Shenmue is an IP which SEGA obtains the trademark. With respect to Shenmue 3, it was developed by Mr. Yu Suzuki, the creator of Shenmue, through licensing out after he went independent. At present, we believe that it is difficult for SEGA to release a new Shenmue game, but if we receive a request for a license from him in the future, we would like to consider this. So, okay then, let's sort of analyse that side of things a tiny bit first. It confirms to me at that point in time, at least, obviously time flown by since then, that Shenmue 4 certainly wasn't being touched by SEGA at that point in time. They refer to difficulties, which obviously I'm going to go into a little bit right now. And again, it can pretty much confirms in my mind at least that if Yu Suzuki is ready and willing and able to continue the Shenmue series off his own back through WiseNet, they pretty much license it out to him, which is positive, don't get me wrong. But there's also a negative spin of this on a little bit, that it doesn't really look like Shenmue's moving. And SEGA, certainly at that point in time, aren't particularly interested. Now, they're going, it's difficult to make a Shenmue game. Why? That's the question I want to be sort of answering here, or at least trying to answer in this video here for everybody. So we're going to go through a few topics here. I'm going to talk about sales, budget, and licensing in one area. Talk about the stigma of Shenmue. I am going to talk about Like a Dragon, the Judgment series. And then sort of following on from that, I'm going to talk about a little bit of a money-making scheme type thing with SEGA, potentially with Shenmue. And then I'll give my overall thoughts at the end. But I'd be very interested, guys, to see what you think as well, and whether I've missed anything as we go. And I will drop the link to the shareholders meeting so you can read it for yourselves in the description below. So let's dive in. Sales, budget, licensing. Now, Shenmue, as we know, the original Shenmue game had a budget of anything between $47 to $70 million, depending on who you talk to, whether marketing is included, etc. Either way, it had a massive budget, but we also know that it's comprised of some of Shenmue 2's budget. I anticipate it probably covered a lot of the research for the Virtua Fighter RPG as well, and several project restarts, which we talked about in the GDC conference 2014, where they obviously moved it from the Saturn over to the Dreamcast, for example, and all of that work that went on between it and behind the scenes as well. So there's a lot of money gone into the project. Let's not beat around the bush here. Shenmue 1 sold well on the Dreamcast. I mean, 1.2 million sales on a console that had an install base of around 10-11 million. Pretty damn good by the end of it. But it didn't make its budget back. I think it was quoted that Shenmue have had to sell 2 copies to every Dreamcast owner to make its budget back, which is insane. But I don't know how much truth there is to that. But that was the narrative going around at the time. I'd be very interested to see whether that's true or not. Shenmue 2, I'd be impressed if it sold anything around between 500 and 600,000 copies. That's based on the information that I have from the Shenmue vs. Yakuza podcast, which I will obviously link those notes below again so you can see my research for that. And Shenmue 3, I would anticipate, I have no evidence of this, but I think week 1 it sold around 100,000 copies based on the research that was done on the Dojo forums a few years ago. And I would anticipate in terms of sales, it's probably done around 400 to 500,000 sales around the series average when you take into account all of the series releases combined, divide that then into the amount of sales potentially they've made, so the numbers that we've got, and that's the average you get. So considering the massive budget around certainly the first two games, Shenmue 3 obviously had a budget of around $20 million, had the Epic deal and other issues, so it did again make money. The market's not massive, so commanding what would be a big budget title is quite difficult. But I would argue, and I'd like to argue, that actually Shenmue, with the right conditions and with the right sort of meeting in the middle here, can come into this sort of new era, new energy stuff and make money. If you look at Shinobi, I'm not taking shits on these franchises. This is just my take on this sort of thing. But Shinobi is sold, I think it's 12 releases in total, 4.6 million total franchise sales, which it's not bad at all. If you divide the 4.6 million by 12, you get an average series sales of 383,000 per game. Now, I absolutely accept that most of these Shinobi games will be done on a far less budget of Shenmue, so it probably then makes that a bit more palatable. But in terms of physical actual sales, it's certainly the average, it is behind the Shenmue series. Another one, and I've mentioned this before repeatedly, is Jet Set Radio. I am made up for the Jet Set Radio community. I am made up we're getting another Jet Set Radio game. Been far too damn long. But let's be honest here, in terms of sales, physical sales, it has not done very well at all. Across all releases, so that's Dreamcast, Steam, I think Game Boy Advance as well, the original Jet Set Radio has broken 1 million sales. Now, Shenmue 1 did that on its own. Okay, it had a lot of marketing and hype behind it, and there was a drop-off with Shenmue 2, which I accept. But Jet Set Radio's first title took 3 to 4 releases off multiple platforms to sell 1 million copies. Now, I'm not suggesting that Shenmue 4 will sell 1 million copies, but then when you factor in Jet Set Radio Future, which sold far less than the original Jet Set Radio, and the new game is going to be fully open world, there is a humongous risk in terms of the money going in to what the potential market would be. Now, granted, and I accept this fully, I don't know how like Bomb Rush Cyberpunk has done in terms of sales and whether that's going to gather momentum for a Jet Set Radio title and help get more sales. I would hope so. I really, really, really hope Jet Set Radio does well because it's a franchise that deserves to do well. But the hard figures at the moment say that it's as much of a risk, if not more of a risk, than Shenmue in terms of the market size at this moment in time. So then, why can't Sega find an appropriate sort of equilibrium where they go, right, at the market size is 500k, we can give this budget and then make a game with that. Now, whether that's also partly because Yu Suzuki wants to make it and he has his own vision for that and doesn't feel the budget is enough, that's another question and probably another video in itself, which I will do later on. But it bears sort of to reason that I think Sega can find a way, if they really want to make a Shenmue game. Licensing is also another issue. Shenmue obviously is owned by Sega, but I wonder if there's licensing issues around the IP. Just if you take Shenmue 3, for example, what deals were made around that license? Who got first refusal? Shenmue 4, are there certain deals that mean actually from a financial standpoint, getting out of those deals makes that challenge a little bit harder? However, I would also flip that it's still excitement around Shenmue. I'm going to come on to Like a Dragon in a bit, but in Like a Dragon 8, and I covered this in another video as well, there is a small little Easter egg for Shenmue in there. And actually, it's been pretty damn well received by a lot of people. So that could, in theory, again, I said this in the video, I'm probably reaching a little bit, but could be a small dip in the water. Let's see. But there's still excitement for Shenmue, and I maintain that if Sega does have the desire to do this, and that's the thing, if they have the desire to do this, they can make it work. This sort of budget type thing, I get it from a business point of view, but I also think it's an excuse. I really do. I really think that actually if they put their mind to it, they could find a way. I really, really do. Coming away from the licensing, the budget and all of that sort of stuff, the stigma. Now, Shenmue has a stigma around it. Let's not beat around the bush, it divides opinion. Some gaming circles think it's boring. Within Sega themselves, I understand that there are some there that in terms of the development, it was a long, hard development cycle for them. There's a stigma around that. There's a stigma around, I think, higher ups in Sega. I don't know this. This is to my perspective that Shenmue cost Sega a lot of money, and I'm not saying it didn't, but I would also argue that some of the decisions that Sega made around Shenmue Online will be one which I will talk about shortly, did not help the situation in any way, shape, or form. But, so there's two sort of stigmas there. Shenmue cost us a lot of money. Developers are like, it was really hard for us. And then you've got the wider gaming reaction to it. It is low-hanging fruit for some YouTubers and gamers that they think Shenmue boring, Like a Dragon good, blah, blah, blah. But there's more to this whole money situation than just Shenmue. And I don't know why there's this stigma around it at Sega. Sega, I love them to bits, and I'm proud to say I'm a massive Sega fan. But they were the architects of their own downfall. The Mega Drive decisions, all the add-ons there, the botched Western Saturn launch, even though the Saturn's got some absolutely stunning games on it. And then they were on the back foot with the Dreamcast. And there's even decisions there that people analyse and go, well, if they'd done this, they'd done that, it might have not ended up the way it did. I don't know. I really don't know. But it is known within Japanese culture that they hold on to these things for quite a long time in terms of business sense. And I can understand why there's a risk attached to it. Absolutely, that's been proven. But there is a stigma around Shenmue. But as I said, the decisions around Shenmue Online, which I'll come on to in a bit, and Shenmue City is where they've also chucked money away for no real good reason. And some of the decision making there was really, really weird. Now, moving on to sort of the Like a Dragon series here. Now, I love this series. It's fantastic. I own every mainline entry of this. Again, I'm not trying to take a shit on it. With the studio RGG, they have a powerhouse team here who crank out games like anything. They do it in a super cost-effective way, and fair play to them. Absolutely fair play to them. Infinite Wealth has done insanely well at the moment in sales. I think it's just hit 1 million sales in around a week, which is brilliant. And they are numbers that Shenmue fans can dream about. We'd love that, because if that was happening for Shenmue, we'd be on Shenmue 6, Shenmue 0, and we'd be riding off to the sunset and enjoying ourselves. We're not in that situation. And also, the reviews are insanely good. It's the best reviewed title out of the whole Like a Dragon Yakuza Judgment series. So they're in terms of Sega and a resource perspective, they're going, well, why would we put in the same amount of money, for argument's sake, and go, well, not making Like a Dragon Judgment Yakuza game and put it into Shenmue, where the profitability is going to be potentially far less than Like a Dragon, etc. And I can get that, I can understand that. Okay, so can they justify taking their A team, probably the best team in Sega at the moment, off of Like a Dragon and into Shenmue? Shenmue will require a lot of building up from the ground in terms of location to location to location. Like a Dragon uses a lot of new assets. Granted, Infinite Wealth has a whole new area, which is fantastically done, but it does reuse a lot of the same things as well in terms of mini games and other bits and pieces around it. So they've done it in a smart way. Shenmue, they have to build areas from scratch again, and that would be the same with a 4 or a 0 or whatever. Now, I'm pretty sure RGG could be clever about how they did this, but that is something that they have to factor in terms of production, getting the costs down, and making it a viable way to happen. But are they going to take their best team off of it? Because they're probably the only team within Sega that can deal with this sort of game, and I would think do it justice. And I've done a video on that covering that specific topic, which I will also link below for you. Then, and I've talked about money a bit, but I've also talked about the sort of the budgetary side of things. I'm talking about cash grabbing here. Sega rather have been known to chuck money away chasing trends too late. Hyenas, alleged to be $70 million, chucked down the drain. Never came out. Allegedly got bad feedback at Gamescom, and they binned it. And a lot of layoffs happened, and a lot of people lost their jobs, and I hope to God they found new jobs, because that is at the sharp end of things, and I feel so bad for those people who've worked so hard on this game to have it just binned off, and essentially goodbye. And that's unfortunately the climate of the gaming industry at the moment, and it's really not good. And it's, yeah, enough said on that. And Secura Wars Mobile, $20 million, binned off, pissed away, gone. And that leads on to Shenmue Online. So back in 2004, as we know, Shenmue Online was announced, and it was coming into a very crowded MMO market. And Sega, could see the money. I don't judge them for that. But at the time, they spent $20 million on a game that never came out, ended up in a massive court case over the move from JC Entertainment to, I think, Sega China, or whoever it was at Sega Shanghai at the time, and it never came out. They spent $20 million on that. Now, had it been successful, brilliant. They'd have made a ton of money, and we wouldn't be sat here, and I wouldn't be sat here talking to you right now. But it didn't. It bombed out big time and never came out. So they have spent $20 million of their own money that they just chucked away, which could have gone towards Shenmue 3. No brainer. Shenmue 3, I'm not saying it made all its money back, but would have made more money back than Shenmue Online that never came out, people. We know that. But there we are. It sucks. Like I said earlier in this video, there's a stigma attached to it that Sega see Shenmue as chucking money away, but they need to look at their own decisions a little bit there as well, because everybody wanted Shenmue 3. Shenmue Online, everyone went, what? Like, we probably would have played it, but we wanted Shenmue 3. It was a real big misstep in my mind. But they are known to come to the market when it suits. So with the Shenmue 1 and 2 re-releases, obviously it came out in 2018, that was blatantly off the back of a massively successful Kickstarter for Shenmue 3. It's obvious. Now, I know there's been some press out there that Sega were apparently thinking about it in 2015. I don't know how true that is or not, but on the surface, it looks like they've gone, oh, Shenmue 3, massively successful Kickstarter, let's get on the gravy train. I get it from a business point of view, but it did look like they were just coming in for the money. And I get it. They're business. They're a business. I'm not critical of that. That's how they are. They need to make money at the end of the day. But that's what it looked like. So they do come around to it when there's money to be made. So surely there must be a way, as I said at the top of the video, that they can find a way to make money. Now, they also come along with merchandise as well. They really like selling Shenmue merchandise. There's been quite a bit of it over the years, and generally it sells quite well. They don't do too many larger runs of it, and I know there's other money that goes into other franchises that obviously sell more, but the merchandise for Shenmue does tend to sell out. But historically, there are examples where they have come to the market when they think they can make themselves some money. And the re-releases was a bit of a no-brainer, really, off the back of the Kickstarter. Let us be brutally honest about it. I think, had they not done that, they'd have left a lot of money on the table. And we understand that it sold relatively well, and Sega were quite happy with it. So they are known to come, and as any business has the right to come out and come to market when there's some money to be made. But then, why are you saying now it's difficult for Shenmue to be made, where you are reviving other franchises that historically have sold less and potentially have less of a market than Shenmue? How can you justify that in terms of potential profitability? Surely there has to be a middle ground for Shenmue 4, 0, whatever, to be made at a point where the risk is acceptable to the market that is available, and then you monetize that market as much as you can. Different video, different thoughts, different time. Anyway, my final thoughts. I'm not here to piss people off. I'm not here to sit there and shout at Sega all day, every day, because actually, do you know what? They've released some bloody good games over the years. I've been very lucky as part of the dojo, as has James, to work with them for charity events and things like that. This is not a personal go. This is just how I see things, and it's not meant as a personal FU, essentially. I feel very, very strongly that there is a way for Sega to become involved. I just think they are choosing not to look at it and to look the other way for the reasons that I've described above. Why can't they make a smaller episodic title? And I maintain, absolutely maintain, as controversial as this opinion is, that that might be the way to go. If you get a brilliant small 15-hour game, story-rich Shenmue experience, and done for the right budget, I reckon we'd be onto a winner, and we'd start cranking these out as chapters as we went, and away we go. It just sometimes feels like that they don't want to find a way. But as I said earlier in this video, there was the Easter egg in Like a Dragon. I don't know who's responsible for that. If you are watching this, whoever made that Easter egg, please, please, please give us an email, drop us a line. I'd love to talk to you about how that came about, because it is fantastically done. Anyway, guys, that's my analysis. Matt ran over. What do you guys think about Sega? Are they making excuses? Could they come on board? And will they and should they come on board for Shenmue 4 or Shenmue 0? How do you think they could make it happen? Give us some comments below. Guys, as well, I'm going to give my members, or our members rather, a shout out. There's now 23 of you. Thank you so much, everybody, for dropping in on the content and enjoying the content and helping James and I with the dojo. It is much, much appreciated. I'm just so thank you. Guys, if you want to be a member, it's only a couple of pounds a month, and what you get is the videos that I do ahead of time and other content ahead of time. The podcasts stay as they are, but no content is locked behind a paywall. Everybody can access it free if they want to. But to the members, thank you very much. I'm going to go top to bottom. So Terry, Stuart Peacock, Little Crypty Monster, and Titch and Richard King, who are our new members recently. Thank you very much. And also a little shout out to Titch. Thank you. And good to see you around the community again. I hope you're doing well. Sean Potter, Guppy Coy, Bruce Wayne 937, Survival Spears, Peter Hoffland, Sean Don, Wandering Through Shenmue, Phantom Riverstone, Nova, Bruce Wayne 911, Mike Franz, Manny Figueroa, Master Mo, Nick Hughes, Sean Hastings, Clunky Mage, and William Lovering. Thank you for dropping in on the content. Thank you for being members and helping us run the website. It is very much appreciated. I will be back with a video in the not too distant future from now, guys. Thank you for sticking with me. Again, it's turned into a bit of a longer video again. So if you stuck with me for the whole thing, I salute you. But for now, guys, take care, have a good one, and enjoy your weekend. All the best.